Hello, designers. I'm going to take you through the first practical challenge, just so you kind of have an idea of what we're doing with these. And this first one, it reviews Introduction to HTML website file structure, skeleton code, and basic text elements. Now, if we go and we look in the course in week 3, we've got the basic HTML elements is before the practical challenge. So you want to make sure you complete that before this. Now, one of the things that we want is to be able to see our code as we are making it happen. And one of the problems that we've discovered with GitHub is that you cannot use some of the extensions that we started. So we're going to install one more extension, and it is called Codespaces. GitHub Codespaces. This is an instant development environment, and this is what we need. So in order to look at our HTML as we're creating it, we want to be able to have a split screen and be able to see what we're coding. The way that we had it set up, I was dependent upon live preview, which didn't work when using a GitHub. Now, what does work is the GitHub Codespaces. Now, what we have to do though, let's see. All right, so I have to figure out how. Let's see how to do it real quick. Okay, so right now we have this connection, see, in the bottom left, editing on GitHub. And you notice, actually, it says some features are not available for resources located on a virtual file system. Duh. Whoops. All right, so what we're going to do here, when we click this, we actually have an option to open a remote window. We have the repositories, what we've already done. Now here is what we get to do. Connect to Codespace, all right? Or let's see. Let's do continue working in new Codespace. Well, what happens if we do connect to Codespace? The extension wants to sign in, allow. Okay, so yes, we're going to authorize. So it says there are no Codespaces available. Would you like to create one? Yes. So create. Okay. And what's the repo that we want to create our Codespace? This one. And the default branch. Yes. Main. Oh, wow, look at this. It says, do you want to have like 2 cores, 8 gigs, 4 cores, 16 gigs? I'm just going to do the 8 gigs, like keep it simple. Okay, so I am creating a Codespace. What I have done, you guys, I've basically made my Visual Studio Code connected to my GitHub, okay? It's going to automatically come up with terminal. It's giving us all sorts of stuff. It doesn't look like we're doing much different, but we kind of are. Close this down, okay? And let's open up our practical challenge. And now let's open up our index. Now we have the ability to open and preview our index. So I'm going to right click and show preview. And when that happens, nothing's there. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Nothing's there. That's because I don't have any code that's viewable. Remember how we said that what's in your head is not viewable? Well, there it is. That's that practical challenge. This is a title, but it doesn't belong inside the body. It belongs to the tab, the browser tab. Let's go ahead and close this Explorer so we have a little bit more space. Now we're doing the practical challenge, okay? Let's go ahead and open up. We're going to need to be able to work through the directions and our code at the same time. Now, a smart thing to do, I have it open in another place. Smart thing to do, print this page. Okay? Now, look at that. You can print it. Highly recommend expanding. Okay, you expand this challenge, print it out. You could also copy and paste it somewhere if you want to print it in a different way, because the web page is a little weird. But you're going to want to have this open as you're going, okay? Now, right now, what we've already done, we've already have a new root directory. But let's take a look and see. Okay, this one says, name it practical challenge site. You will use this directory. We're going to continue all of these challenges. So let's have this one. Let's open this again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. Now, to rename something, you simply right click on it. And then I can click rename. And I'm going to say practical challenge. Okay. So, or from textbook or something that indicates that this is my practice and not the one that I'm actually turning in. All right, so I hit enter and oh, look at that. My source control has changed, right? Because I have changes. That's fine. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's refresh this. Go to right click, show preview. There we go. When I changed the name of the folder, it changed the path. And so the path needed to update. So there we go. The path is updated. This is the path. This is a local server. All right. Anyways, let's move into what it's going to ask us next. Okay. So we've done this. The other thing about printing out, which might be helpful, is that you can check things off as you go. So next one, inside that directory, create a new HTML file and name it appropriately for a site homepage. Homepage. If we forget, okay, what is going on, remember this is a reference textbook, okay? So I can go over here and I can look, I'm going to look at homepage. Oh, homepage here, right here, file structure, homepage. Let me right click on this, open in a new tab, and here, file structure, homepage. The HTML file for the homepage of a website should always be named index.html. Aha, okay, cool. So let me go back, and I already have an index.html. Look at me, it's spiffy. All right, so I'm ready to go to the next one. So I got 1, 2. In your new homepage, add the standard skeleton requirements. Got that? Don't forget to indent properly. Well, we cheated. Everything's already done for us. That's great. Okay, and then the next one, it says for the title element, use the design of the 1960s. Oh, okay. So let's actually change the title. I'm going to copy this. And right now it's practical challenge. Let's go ahead and change that. Okay, and paste it in there. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say from text practical challenge. Okay, and this is just practice. Practice. Okay, I want to make sure that I understand that for myself. Now, nothing has changed on the page again, but guess what? The browser tab has changed. Okay, so next, let's move inside the body. And then for the rest of our work, we're always going to be in the body because that's where that's where all the content shows up on the web page is viewable. Let's add an H1 element to serve as a primary heading for the page. Okay, so inside the body, notice I have a nice space here. If you didn't have a space there, if it was like this, you want to make sure that you get your cursor right there on line 14 at the end of the body, hit enter, and now I can start my H1 element. We are in Visual Studio Code, even though we're on this like Codespaces. So we can simply just type H1 and then press tab. And now we can copy where I already have it still in my, I still had it on my clipboard, the design of the 1960s. So type that again. And now I get to see it. Yay. So now we actually have some real code. Now, something that I like to do is always go to the end of my line next. Okay. So for me, I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to I'm going to hold down Command and press the right arrow of the keyboard to get to the end of the line. If you're on a PC, you can just hit End on the keyboard and then get to that end of that line and hit Enter. I try to use the mouse as little as possible when I'm coding, because often the mouse can take me places I don't want to go. All right, so the next part says add a paragraph with the following text. Paragraph. Well, before I put text, you might actually be, kind of thinking, well, I could just copy and paste the text in there first. Don't do that. Always set up your HTML first. If you forget, again, paragraph, okay? Let's go. Let's use our resources. How to do a paragraph element. We can open this up and kind of search through, or you could search here for paragraph. Let's try that. Paragraph. Here we go. Paragraph and small. Let's check that out. Paragraph and small. Paragraphs. The P tag. Like this. So it starts with the P, ends with the P. Okay. Let's start that. Well, I'm in VS Code. All I gotta do is press P tab and boom, I have a paragraph. Let's go back there and go to the practical challenge. And I'm going to copy this text and paste it right there. Now, you'll notice that it is this long line. We don't care that much. Like, it's nice to just be able, if you can use the end and home commands on your keyboard to get to and from different, the start of the text and the end of the text is going to help you a lot, because you don't necessarily want to have all the wrap. It's called wrapping. Okay. Notice that I don't even see the end of my line on my code. I don't actually care. But if you want to see the end and you don't want to have it all huge like that, you can go up to File and Edit. Okay. Oh no, one more time. View. So you can go to View menu in your code editor and you can toggle the word wrap so that it wraps everything. Okay. And sometimes this is good for when you start, so you can make sure that all your tags are closed appropriately and things like that. All right. So I'm going to go to the end of that tag and pressing enter. Notice that everything is automatically indented, right? Meaning there's space. Okay. It says it's a new. This means that this is nested inside the body element. Okay. And then I'm just continuing to nest inside the body. All right. I'd never go outside the body. Okay. The body in HTML, leave those guys alone. Okay. Just stay down there. You never want to have an extra one. You only want to have one. It's the entire page. Okay. Let's go back. And let's see. In the paragraph you just added, we want the user to know that the time period is important. So place the word 1960s in the appropriate HTML element to indicate importance. Okay, so let's take a look again. Now, importance, let's see. So how do we know if something is important? Okay, headings. We don't want something in a paragraph to have a heading, so no. 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 It's not on there. That has nothing to do with it. Let's go up to the top. And let's see. So, they're using the word important. And what they mean, though, in this, it's a bad word because what they mean is strong. Okay. And, it says add importance. So, yeah, I have to know. Add importance to text. Strong. Okay. So, it said that we wanted to add the word 1960s using strong. So, let's go back. And where's the word 1960? Is this one? No, this. The 1960s. Okay, so strong. So now I actually am going to try to type the tag, but it gets a little weird in VS Code. So I start typing strong, and when I press tab, okay, kind of goes weird. Now when I end it, when I end my strong element, it automatically ends the whole thing. Okay, so I have to cut the last tag. Okay, it got rid of my text. Oh shoot, hold on. It actually replaced my text. Do you see that? So I actually need this text again. 1960s, right there. Okay, so 19 60s. Let's make sure that's the right one. 1960s. Yay. Okay, so, and then it says you wanted that word 1960s. Important. We got it. Okay, so emphasis. Ooh, internationalization and experimentalism. Okay, those are big words. Internationalism. So emphasis is EM. Okay, notice what happens here in VS Code. It automatically opens and closes the tag for you, which can kind of mess us up. So what I want is to cut the end of the tag and place it after the experimentation. So I put the start of the tag here, the end of the tag here. The output, I see, it made it nice and given emphasis or italics, you might know it as. There we go. And then number 10, it says below the paragraph, add a new heading to indicate a subsection of the page. The heading should be the appropriate number level to indicate that it is a direct subsection of the H1. Oh, okay. So you started with H1. You only ever want one H1 per page. Never more than one more H1. So we always start at H1. It's more like we could think of H1 as the title rather than like a heading. Okay. We use the element title in our head. So when we get to the body, the heading or like the first heading is H1. And then every other heading after that is going to be H2 or so on and so forth. But we always go in numerical order. So what this is telling us is to do an H2 element and it's going to have that significant designer. So let's go back here and we're going to type in. Notice I could have done a couple things, like I can hit enter at the end of my paragraph and I'm going to type in H2 and press tab. And then I'm going to put my text in here. So here's my text. This is the text I want. I'm going to come in and see, I'm going to copy it and then I'm going to paste it right in there. Aha, significant designers. It has a period at the end. I don't want that there, so I'm just going to backspace. Nice. Okay. Notice it's a little bit smaller. Now, we do not use headings just because we like that they style something a certain size. Anytime we want to deal with styles, we're going to use CSS, but we're not there yet. So just deal with things the way they are. And we just don't worry if we want to change the size of something right now. We have a couple tricks we can do to change the size, but we don't use headings for it. Next, it says below the heading you just added, create an unordered list including the nesting shown. Ooh, nesting. Okay. Let's go back to this basic text elements and let's go find our unordered list so we can understand what they're telling us. Lists. Okay. Let's go down to lists. Here we go. So an unordered list represents a list of items where the items are not important. Okay, so we have this unordered list. And what you're noticing here, what the output is, we've got bananas, apples, and then a subcategory of apples were types of apples. Granny Smith and Braeburn. Those are both brands of apples. And then it jumps back to the regular oranges. So not all things have to have these subsections, but in this case, just one of them does. All right, so what this is showing us is that we have all these names that are going to go in this list, okay? And this level is going to have is going to be a sub list, a nested list of this. There's a couple ways to do this, and normally I would say code first. So let's go in and let's just start our unordered list. An unordered list always starts with just UL, okay? I'm going to press tab, enter. I'm automatically going to press enter because I know that UL, the unordered list, is actually an element that contains other list elements inside of it to make it work the way that we want it to. Now I'm going to paste in, oops, wrong one. I'm going to paste in all of this text that we have. Control, Command C. I'm going to paste it in, Command B, and then there we go. And look at what happens when I put it in an unordered list. All of that happens, it's just like listed, but like just because there's spaces doesn't mean just because it's on new lines over here doesn't mean that it is over there. Okay, but there is something that it has done, and that is given it a default indentation. So that's really interesting. That's what the unordered list element does. It says, okay, indent everything over to the right. Okay. But then when we start putting individual list elements inside our unordered list, that's when the bullet point shows up. And that's what, an unordered list is supposed to do. So let's type LI. First of all, I'm going to give some space, go back LI. And there we go. There we go. So now if I have an empty LI, I see that I have a bullet point. I am going to take this. It's going to be kind of a long process. I take all of this text. I'm going to cut it. Command X. You got to get used to the difference between cutting, Command or Control X, and pasting, which is Control V or Command V, and copying. Copying keeps a copy of what you just copied where it was, and it allows you to also paste it other places, whereas cutting takes it out completely and then makes it available to paste. That's what I want to do a lot. There's a lot of times that we use cut instead of copy. Okay, you need to get used to it. Okay, so now I have this to start. All right, and I'm just going to go through and cut it, paste. Okay, and I'm going to stop here for a second because there was something different about this. the Ray and Charles Eames needed to be indented. So I'm going to nest my hit enter. So now I have my list element, my starting and closing, and I'm actually going to make a new unordered list inside. So I'm going to make a new UL element, enter. So notice I'm getting nesting going on. And now I'm going to put a list. And look at what happens over here. Over here, there's a new bullet point. Okay. So now I'm going to take this Ray Eames and paste it in there. Hit enter, make a new list element. I'm going to cut the Charles Eames and put it in there. All right. And then I'm done with that level. So I just move along. Go to the bottom of the list and start again. Next one, Saul Bass. See how that works? By the end of this, you should be super familiar with cutting and pasting. Hopefully it's working out. Notice I'm making sure not to have extra spaces on the end, right? Everything's flush. Okay. And then now I have this huge gaping hole, so I'm just going to delete. There we go. Nice. Look at that. Like, did you notice you couldn't see the gaping hole? Like, I could go like this all day. And HTML is like smart. It's very simple markup language, so it doesn't actually change anything when you make spaces amongst the elements. But inside these text elements, if I make space, like here, right, it's gonna make everything bigger in here. This is not, you might have to refresh this from time to time. That's not showing me. I guess it doesn't. Weird. Okay. Well, it wasn't working there. I don't know. All right. Moving on. It was a bad example. Okay, look at that. We have a page with a list. Like, we've got these cool designers that we're talking about. After the unordered list, add another heading at the same level of the hierarchy as the previous section. Okay, so this previous section had an H2. Now I'm going to have another H2. And this one is going to be typefaces. Top typefaces. Command C. Paste that in there. Let's get rid of that period at the end. Top typefaces. That's like a font, right? Of the 1960s. Cool. All right. So here's the ordered list. It's ranked. Okay. So since it's ranked, since there's an order to it, we're going to use an ordered list. This one is not going to have any nested elements. So I'm just going to go OL list. Now, let's go down and look. Number 1. So by default, the list type for an ordered list is always going to be numbers. Let's go back over here and copy all of these. And I'm going to paste them in here. If I wasn't working in VS Code, I would just type my list elements around each of these, but because I'm working in VS Code and it has the autocomplete tags, I want to make sure that I'm doing the cut and paste. So Cooper Black, cut, paste. Futura, cut, paste. I actually know what most of these are. That's cool. Oh, I wonder if they just forgot an E at the end of that. Like if it's universe or really like without an E at the end. Because that's the wrong spelling of universe. If so, whoops. Copied that. It's easy to do. Euro style. I am not, notice, like all of a sudden I'm not indented the same way, so I can go back to the front and hit tab to make sure that it's all lining up with the proper indent. Notice up here, it's actually showing me the top of my body like that. Okay. It's interesting. Showing my header, showing, oh, you're in an HTML and then you're in the body. That's cool. You can also see how, like, what element you're in by this little breadcrumb up here. It's like, oh, you're in this folder, practice, practical challenge, which is, and then inside that, you're in the HTML document. And then inside that, you're in the HTML container element. And then inside that, you're in the body. And inside that, you're in the unordered list, or the order list. And then inside that, you're in a list. You're at a list level. That's so cool. All right, so let's press the list again. Impact. Yeah, okay. So, taking care of that. Nice. All right. So now we have this whole page. It's giving a list about the design of the 1960s. Looking good. Finally, after the list of typefaces, let's add a credit to show who created this website in the appropriate element for text that is less important. Add the text website by your name. Guess what? It's going to be your name, not your name. Okay. An element for, okay, so what this is asking me to do is put a small element. Now, normally I would put that in a paragraph, though. I always put things in paragraphs. I'm not just going to use like a small tag. So it'll be interesting to see the finished product and see if that's what they did. I'm writing out my elements first. I'm doing a paragraph and I'm doing a small. Okay, so I'm leaving the cursor alone. I'm not going to click anywhere because I don't want to leave like where I'm supposed to put the text. It says website by your name. Okay, so I'm just going to start typing them here. Website by Juliet. Nice. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Website by Juliet. Sweet. Okay, so now we're ready to check this sucker. See if it worked. Let's look at the finished version. We're going to have to download it. Fine. Let's see my tutorial. Sure. Okay, challenge 1. It's zipped. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna open this. Now if I were to just open this, watch what happens. It opens up a browser. Yeah. And I can see, oh wait, mine looks just like this. That's great. And then if yours doesn't look like this, it even has the ability, if you open with Visual Studio Code, you can actually see. Okay, so now you have to remember though that you're in somebody else's file. And you could tell that because they don't have your comments on here, right? But everything else is the same. And you could just go through line by line. Okay. Other thing, when we first, there it is. Great. We did it right. He used small, he didn't use a paragraph. That is so debatable. We should find out. Okay, so I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. Let's see. Hi Chat. It's my friend. When coding in HTML, should you always enclose text in a paragraph element, even if you plan to enclose it in a small element? It is not mandatory to enclose text within a paragraph element if you intend to wrap it within another element like small. The choice largely depends on the semantic meaning of the structure and structure of your content. The paragraph element is typically used to represent a paragraph of text, while small is used to indicate smaller text, such as legal disclaimers or copyright information within a larger context. Okay, it's supplemental. It is supplemental. All we're doing is just adding credits. So it's supplemental. It's not really, doesn't really have anything to do with the content of the page. So we just put small. So it's like fine print, right? Okay, cool. You know, love it. Learn stuff, new stuff every day. Okay, so this looks good to me. I'm going to go back to my original VS Code and I'm going to get rid of the paragraph here. Now, the one thing that it did for me that you might not notice on the other one is it gave me extra space between the bottom of my list and my credit. That's the only thing, like what I would do is maybe like put this in a div or something where it was like, this is the credits, you know, indicating that it's the credits. But that's good. Okay. See what happens. It's still got spacing down there. It just doesn't have spacing on the bottom anymore. But this looks good. All right. So now that you have completed this, you're ready to come up with your own idea. So if I were doing this, I would probably choose a musical genre itself. Like, I particularly really like drum and bass. It's a type of electronic music, and it has all sorts of variations and stuff about it that I could talk about and geek out on. Or I could do electronic music in general, you know, because I really like dance music, and you know, y'all probably call it EDM or whatever, but whatever, I digress. The point is, you want to come up with something where you can have a reason, you know, you give the heading, you give a paragraph about it, and then you have a reason for a subheading, okay? And it doesn't have to be ordered, so it's just like a list, you know, like groups, you know, artists, DJs, whatever. You know, I could do that, like significant DJs in the genre, you know, and then maybe like top typefaces. So here, where it's like there's an order, I could say like top 10 albums, you know, something like that. So I have two different ways of expressing something. Some of you might be into fashion, you could do that. Some of you, sports teams, a sport itself, right? Like, here's a list of AFC, I don't know, you know, AFC football or something, you know, and the top 10 in the league last year, whatever. So there's lots of different type things that you could do with this. And then that's what you're going to turn in, is your version of one of these using your own. Before we go, what do we have to do? We have to make sure we save this, okay? Because if you were to submit the link, you know, without it, then it's going to be a problem. So go to your source control, make sure that you commit. So created the practical challenge files. Commit. There are no stage changes to commit. Would you like to stage all your changes? Yes. Oh, all right. Okay. Great. Okay. So, good to go. All right. Okay. So when you are done, okay, let's go back to our Explorer. And this was the practice. Now you're ready to create a new folder that's going to be your actual practical challenge. So I'm going to go at this level, open it up, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to say practical challenge 1. No spaces. 1. Okay. And then I'm going to make a new file because this has to have the same name. Okay. So since this has the same name, I have to have it in a separate. It might get confusing, the practice and practical, but that's okay. I would do both. Okay. Have both. Keep it separate. What's the first thing you always do? Start out with your skeleton code, and then you're just going to go through. Okay, let's look at the course module real quick. Look at the practical challenge 1. And it tells you about the topic. And we just completed challenge 1. And now we have this create our own. Here we go. Here's the rest of it. This should not say my website project. Let's do. Okay, we can do something like that. And then keep going. Your title element, body content, primary heading, paragraph, emphasize important text. Okay, so we're going to use, use an emphasis element as well. And then we're going to have this subsection. Okay, and then it's the ordered list. Oh, shoot. Okay, and then we also have ordered list. Okay. This one. This one is kind of the same. Create an ordered list. An ordered list of significant aspects, numbers, or elements of related to your subject matter where the order does matter. So a rating, you know, like top 10, top 5, like doesn't have to be a lot. Use UL. OL, don't use this. This one. Okay. I'm going to link real quick to this order list. Okay. So then you have this order list. Oh, you know what we don't have? We have the credits. This one I'm going to copy like directly from here. There we go. After the last list, add a credit to show who created this website. small. Wow, that's not what I meant. Oh, it's marked down for me. Oh, that's cute. Okay, good. By adding the text website by your name. Okay. Okay, so let's make this big. Okay, so now we kind of have the update, validation, testing. Okay, guys, this validation and testing, what we've been able to do, what I need to put, save your, be sure to commit your changes to GitHub so that when I view your files, I can see your code. Okay, so I want to remind you what we did here. We opened up Visual Studio Code. We had to install a Codespaces, and that was this guy here, okay? And we're still hooked up, but notice here we had this ability to create and all of that. So we had the ability to hook up to our Codespace, and that's what we did in order to look and see. When we were working in our Explorer, when we were working outside of our Codespace, we were not able to use a preview, and that's a problem. The one other way you could do this is download all of your files to your local computer. If you use your own computer, I suggest you do that. It's not a big deal. But then you make sure that you upload back to GitHub, so you can always create that connection and upload to GitHub. There's probably other ways to do this, like local pull requests. I think we could probably like download this. Oh yeah, you can download this and then upload it again. So we'll have to look into that a little bit. One thing that we have, guys, I wanted to show you before we go in this index. I had you create the extension or install the extension W3C validation. That's at the bottom here. And that actually tells you whether or not this page is validated. It's like a valid thing. And it is. It's like, are all the tags closed? It's checking for that. It's making sure that the correct attributes are there and things like that. And it doesn't have anything extra. So we did great. That's a great way to see right away if you've done anything. And then, so once you're done and you've committed the changes, you're gonna go in and you can share. Remember that you have the ability to get your GitHub. Here's mine. Okay, so now, actually, I haven't pushed the new changes, but if I click on which folder that I'm in, I take this URL and I paste that into the actual submission. But remember, I have to do the practical challenge myself. This was a practical challenge. And this is the for assessment, right? You know, to submit or something. Submit. All right. I hope that makes sense. I am available, so please reach out to me if you need help.